One man is rewriting the rules and taking it to another level.
And the next level, and the next level.
The seventh level.
You just feel how natural it is. You feel how open you become to your prospects, and in response, they usually become more open to you.
Founded by Jeremy Miner, Seventh Level is the only friction-free sales system guaranteed to raise revenue.
In my life, it's been revolutionary.
And his followers are feeling the difference.
His training has transformed everything.
It is precise, and it really draws out emotions.
People around the world are starting to catch on.
We're going to tie in the new model of selling to your product or service that you sell.
These tools can work for anyone in any industry at any time.
And it's time to get on board before the ship sets sail. It's Seventh Level with Jeremy Miner.
All right, Jeremy Miner. All right. So every Wednesday, we go live in our Facebook group, Sales Revolution. We love everybody in there. I just noticed today, we're about to hit 120,000 people in that Facebook group. And I think we started that maybe 2.5 years ago, something like that, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know, but that thing is growing like crazy every day right now. So we're going live on StreamYard on my desktop. We're going live in the Facebook group, Sales Revolution. We're also going live on LinkedIn. We're also love you everybody on LinkedIn there. We're going live in our Facebook business page. I want to say there's about 170 some thousand of you follow me on that sucker. My personal Facebook, hello family and friends. And we're also going live on our YouTube channel. That thing is scaling like crazy. Now, every week we interview a new client. Typically, we try to keep them in a completely different industry every single week. Now, these clients have to meet specifications from us. We don't just interview any client. We have 60 some thousand clients now. And that's not even including companies who have thousands of their people we train. That could be like one company that we count as a client. So we have 60 some thousand clients right now. And there's a lot of people that we interview in this. And a lot of people want to be interviewed. And we try to space out with different industries. So today we're going to interview a client. And when she came here, I think she was already doing pretty good. It wasn't like she was like way down here. She's already doing pretty good, but she realized there was levels to this ball game called sales. And she just wanted to get to a higher level. She wanted to help more people. Okay. She wanted to obviously make probably more sales, because when you make more sales, you typically earn more money, right? So she wanted to have the skill level to be able to do that, because without the right skill level, how do you make more sales? Very hard to do. How do you help more people if you don't have the skill level? Very, very hard to do. So we're going to bring her out in a second. Going to have lots of fun. Now we're also going live. Yeah. So we're going live on these channels. Now, here's what I'm going to have you do real quick. So if you're brand new, maybe you just started following me. I'm the founder of Seventh Level. So we're obviously a sales training organization, and we train salespeople exactly like you. Okay. So we train sales executives like you, sales leadership, sales management, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, business owners. It's really all over the board at this point. 161 industries, including yours, watching me. And we train you how to use specific skilled questions. We call that NEPQ. That stands for Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Okay, along with the right tonality, because your tone is how the prospect interprets the intention behind everything you say and ask. Okay. So we're going to train you. We train you how to do that. So obviously you can make more sales and help more people. Now, if you're on the live right now, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you go down to your phone, and I'm going to have you post in the comments #live. So if you're on the live right now, post #live. I better see a ton of #lives. And if you're on the replay, I'm going to have you post #replay. So if you're on the live right now, post #live. Better start seeing a bunch of #lives. And if you're on the replay, post #replay. Oh, there we come. Thanks, Adine, Sean, or somebody on Facebook, Venom, or there you go, Andrew. Now, if you're now, here's what else would you do? I'm going to have you smash the heart button, and I'm going to have you smash the like button. So smash the heart button, smash the like button. I have you do that because when you do that, it allows the social media platforms to show this live to more people. and it helps them sell more as well. So when I interview this client, she has assured me she's going to give you some golden nuggets that she has learned being one of our advanced inner circle clients that's industry specific to help you sell more of your products and services. Now, what I'm also going to have you do right now is I want you to post the biggest question you have for me and this client. Like, what's a question you have? Like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I'm having a problem with this. Now, when you post that, it will help us answer your questions if you tell me what industry you're in. Like, hey, I sell this, and my question is this. And also tell me that if you do outbound leads, if you do cold calling, or if you do inbound, because that's going to tell me the differences. Or if you sell B2B or B2C, try to be as specific as possible. That will help me answer your questions. All right, let's bring out this client, because I know none of you care about me. You only care about yourself. You want to learn. You're just a human being. All right, Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Chilling like a villain today. Now, Nicole, where are you based out of? I don't even know.
Well, I'm a full-time digital nomad, so I got where I'm at now in Medellin, Colombia, yesterday or the day before.
So you moved to Colombia with the new sales job. Well, good for you. All right. So let's just start here. So I know you just started. How long have you been a client? Let's start there.
I guess it's been a little more than 6 months now. So going through like the second go around. So I guess maybe eight months.
Oh, 8 months. Perfect. I messaged you. So so you started out I think with one of our NEPQ 2.0 like foundations product, and then you got into like our advanced inner circle. That's more like industry specific, where we train you how to tie an NEPQ to what you sell with your scripting and tonality and everything. Now, I know you just started a new job, a new industry. What industry are you in right now?
So I'm actually moving into like fitness coaching and nutrition for women.
Okay, so you're working for a company selling like fitness and coaching, nutrition to help people lose weight, obviously take all that weight off their organs so they don't pass away 10, 15, 25 years early, those type of things, right? Okay, now what did you sell? What did you sell before? Because you're just starting a brand new job, but when you're still in the training in our program, but over the last 6-7 months, what industry you're in? Because it's completely different than what you do now.
Right. Yeah. So I was doing mostly B2B sales, a mix of B2B and B2C sales. I was a full desk agency recruiter, focusing mostly on like technical and engineering types of companies and roles.
Okay. So you were B2B sales. Now that's a big transition going from B2B, where you were talking to individuals because you had to recruit them into like the network you work for, but you were also you had to call companies and get them to, sign deals with your firm to be able to staff their. Did you mainly focus on did you say the IT side or which side? Did I lose you? All right. We lost Nicole real quick. See what happens when you move down to Colombia with that Wi-Fi. We don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi. So let me answer some questions for you guys. Why don't you post some questions in here for me while Nicole's getting her Wi-Fi back up and working. Sean said, best cold calling method, cybersecurity. Okay, you got to give me more. Is that a question you're asking, Sean, or a statement? Let me know. Second vote for cold calling method, cybersecurity. Is that a question you guys are asking or a statement? Okay. Now, Andrew and Sean, are you guys clients? Because in our virtual training platforms, we train you all of that. That's all trained in there, like hours of that. Okay. Okay. So Nicole, coming back, we lost you. Yeah. So going from B2B, where you're cold calling, did you cold call companies?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So going from B2B, cold calling companies that probably, I'm going to go out on a limb, probably get called by recruiting and staffing agencies every day of the week.
Yeah.
What started changing you when you got into the training with your cold calling?
Well, I was able to not just get hung up on or turned down, and actually like get a conversation, even if I wasn't able. Obviously, the point of the cold call wasn't to make the sale on the call, but my whole mindset around it just shifted.
Okay, so before NEPQ, before you became a client and learned how to cold call and how to use your tone to get them to let their guard down, can you go back and tell us how were you taught how to cold call before that? I have to know.
Well, we would typically ad chase. So you would see a job posted on a job board, and I'd be like Monday morning, okay, XYZ company is looking for a software engineer. I'd call them up and say, hey, are you still hiring? Like, I noticed you're looking for a software engineer. Like, I'm actually representing somebody with ABC skills. Like, would you like to see their resume?
And what would they say?
Oh, no, we're fine. Or like, oh, we have an internal recruiting team. Or like, oh, no, we don't need any other agency recruiters on this. Or like, they would just turn me down in any way.
Okay, so it was pretty much over. So would you say that you were having to play the numbers game?
Yeah, volume for sure.
So what caused you to be like, you know what? I don't like playing the numbers game. I don't like just calling all these people and 99% say no. What caused you to be like, maybe I should learn the skills game?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a lot of anxiety surrounding it. Like, I just didn't want to do it anymore because I hated that feeling and I hated being rejected. And it still happens, but it's not as much, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then in the Advanced Inner Circle, besides the virtual training platform that people go through, where we make it industry specific, we help you obviously tweak your cold calling as well. Maybe give us something you did with your cold calling, like what we trained you with, like what you were saying there at the beginning, and then kind of how the prospects would react to that.
Yeah, well, I would start off by saying like, something like, hey, is this Jeremy? And you just have like more like familiarity, like tone, or like more of like a confused tone, like, hey, can you help me out for a second? And that kind of just made them be like, human nature, yeah, sure, what can I help you with? And then I would just use things to get them more into like results-based thinking about like the problems that they're most likely having. And most of the time, they probably don't have people saying those things to them, so they were actually curious enough to stay on the call.
It's like a pattern interrupt, right? Yeah.
Exactly,
so you got your papers out. Yeah. Is this Jane? Yeah, Jane. Hey, it's Nicole. Well, can't say Nicole. I don't have Nicole's tone, but hey, it's Jeremy. Jeremy Minor. I was wondering if you could. Now, did you say I was holding? I don't know if I trained you this yet.
I didn't have that yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have trained you that. I started. I'm like, oh yeah. When I cold called back in the day, I'd always pattern up with papers because I watched like an old Skype video of me training that. I'm like, oh, I forgot the papers. So one thing that it doesn't matter now. You're not in that industry. You switched. But if we had you in that industry, we'd have you print off that. You said you saw like something in the newspaper or something. We'd have you print something off like that. I'm holding a copy of the what? What would it be? Holding a copy.
Like an advertisement for like a software engineer or like
I'm holding a copy of an ad you guys have looking for an engineer. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. So we kind of reference it. Now, why does the familiar tone? Like, yeah, it's Nicole Erickson. What does that do in the prospect's mind?
Well, they're trying to figure out like, do I know Nicole Erickson or not? And they don't want to feel embarrassed and say like, wait, who is this?
You'll never have anybody like, who is this, right? Where you trigger resistance. It's like when somebody calls you and like, hey, it's Amy Smith. You're like, hey, Amy, how's it going? And you're like, who's Amy? I should know Amy. So you just kind of go with it. You keep talking. Now, eventually you might ask, right? But you feel too embarrassed to say, who is this? Because you feel like you should know them because their tonality communicated that they should have already known that you should have already known them. So it's hard for you to do that. It's the same thing in a text message. You ever get a text message from like a number you don't recognize and you don't have the name on it? But they're like, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. And they don't give the name. You're like, you respond back like, hey, and you just kind of keep going with it for like 10 minutes because you feel dumb asking them who they are.
Right.
Everybody's done that. Yeah. It's just, it's Nicole Erickson. I'm holding a copy of, it looks like one of your ads you had looking for an XYZ job position. Wondering if you could help me out for a moment. Sure. I don't know what's going on. How can I help you? Now, what did you say next? You remember?
Yeah. So typically I would kind of go down the path of like trying to figure out like, oh, like, have you guys found an engineer or are you possibly still looking?
Now, have you guys found the right engineer for that position? Or are you possibly still looking? Now, why would you ask that question right there in that context of what you're doing?
Well, they're first going to think like, oh, am I an applicant or a candidate, right? And so they're going to want to talk to me, one. And so I bought myself a little bit more time. But it's also information that I need to know. Like, if they hire the person, okay, great, move on. Maybe I can fill some other roles. But you can just get a lot from that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Okay, perfect. Now there's more to that process, but we'll keep moving on. Okay, let's answer like a couple of questions here, and then I'm going to have you kind of share some other questions that we trained you in the tonality that we want you to do. Are you ready for the event with Stu and Tim Diggle? Yes, I am. That's coming up here in a couple of weeks. Hope you're going to join us there. It'll be lots of fun for you if you're there. Hey, Jeremy, I've always curious to ask if you do sales training for coffee companies, wholesale coffee. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so we train there's only 163 industries in the world, according to Forbes magazine. They do like every year they come out with how many industries there are in the world. I was quite surprised. I thought there was thousands. So there's 163 industries, and then there's subcategories of each one. Okay, so to answer your question, we train 161 of those. I think salt mining is the only industry we don't train that we know of yet, and one other random one. Your industry, coffee, would be considered, I think that's commodities or something like that. And we are in that industry. So do we have salespeople sign yourself for training? More than likely 99.9% chance. Yes, I would say that. Okay. Aiden here on YouTube. For Jeremy, Nicole, what would you say is the most valuable lesson you've heard or learned in the last year or so? Well, let's keep that to sales training since that's what we're talking about. Nicole, what would you say is your most valuable lesson you've learned in the Inner Circle sales training in the last year?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think my biggest takeaway, honestly, was just becoming more like detached from the actual outcome.
What do you mean by that? Tell me, I mean, if somebody's not in our training programs as a client, they might not even know what you meant by that.
Right. In all areas of my life, right? I'm not so focused on the outcome. I'm focusing on like the actual process. But in another sense, like I'm not so like attached to like getting the sale or closing the person. I'm actually trying to help them. Like I want to help them, and focusing on that in the end also helps me.
You close way more sales. Yeah. Cause it's not like Nicole, when Nicole says that inwardly, like on the inside, does she want to close the sale? Yes. Because she knows they have problems that she can solve, but she doesn't want to show that externally. Now that doesn't mean she's negative and says you shouldn't buy. That doesn't mean she's boring. That means she comes across more like an expert. I'll give you an example. I just met with one of the top, you're talking one of the top wealth advisors in the United States of America out of New York City, right here on Zoom, a couple of, probably about 3 hours ago. And I loved it because he's actually a client. Thank you very much. So he knows what to do, but he gets on there and he's like, hey, so what are you even looking for? Because there's a good chance that we might not even have something that you need. And I'm like, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. He's like, yeah, that could be trouble. And he went on like, we don't do this. We focus more on this. And it made me want to work with him somehow, even though he wasn't really what I was looking for. It made me naturally want to work with him because he came across as an expert. He didn't need me. Does that make sense? Like his status just went up here because it caused me to view him more as like an expert in his field. Now he obviously was before I even got on there, but by him coming on there saying, I'm not even sure that you would even need us based on what you're telling me. And it made me gravitate to him even more. Okay. So that kind of is what Nicole is talking about. That doesn't mean Nicole doesn't want to make the sale. Okay. All right. Now maybe give us an example of a good connection question. So let's say you booked the call, you're coming now back to talk with the company for the second appointment back on Zoom. What was a good connection? Just give us, there's several connection questions you have to ask for industry, but what was a good connection question we trained you how to ask, and what was how did the prospects react?
Yeah, well, just to start, like more specifically on like the candidate side of things, we would get tons of applications to our job ads, and so one of the questions I would ask would be like, okay, like where did you see the ad, or what about the ad even attracted your attention or brought you to apply, right? Because there's tons of information in that, and it really helps me narrow down kind of what their overarching.
So when you saw the ad, what was it that they were kind of going over that caused you to want to apply and look into this. Well, the reason why, now that does a couple of things. It helps remind them why they replied in the first place. And it also helps you, the salesperson, start to have more of an overview of what's going on. So you start to understand what their situation is, right? Okay, there's other connection questions you have to ask for your space, but what about situation questions? How did you, give me an example of maybe just even one situation? There's several for your industry, but one that we taught you to ask to help the prospect really start to understand what their real situation is, because most don't really know what their situation is when you first start talking to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the first one would just be like, what are you currently doing to, one, find this candidate, or two, find a new job?
Yeah. So if you're talking to the company, so walk me through, what are you doing now to ensure you're hiring the right person for that role? So I can even start to see doubt like that. Okay. And they might say, oh, we're advertising on Indeed, we're advertising on LinkedIn, or whatever they would say. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then maybe give me, I'm kind of seeing some of your connection or your situation questions here. What was another situation question maybe that you asked that kind of maybe started to seed a little bit of doubt in their mind about what they were doing maybe was not so awesome?
Yeah. Well, at that point, I would have already found out like how long they had been doing it that way. And then I kind of would have asked them like, well, what made you do it that way versus, and then I would repeat back, like maybe using like an actual like recruiter or something.
Oh, so you're still advertising on Indeed? What caused you to use Indeed rather than like an agency that specializes more in that? See, I can see that. And how did I see doubt? By my tone. Yeah, exactly. Or good. Okay, so let's take a few other questions in here real quick. Let's see here. Okay, Andrew, it's a good question. Automotive service advisor. That's a big industry we train as well. Automotive industry. Curious, what separates someone from making 100K or 500K? Comp plan, how many cars they write up, car brand, city. That would be how many cars you sell. That's what separates it. Okay. That is probably 90% of it. The other 10% would be your comp plan, right? So we've got tons of clients in that space that make a lot of what you're saying there that you might want to make. Okay. The number you put in there. Now, when they came here for the training, they were not doing so hot. They might be decent, but we had to teach them the skill level. So like, as an example, Andrew, if I'm a salesperson in retail, so it could be cars like you sell, could be furniture. It doesn't really matter. It could be anything. We're in all those industries. And somebody walks in, what's the first objection you typically get? Just looking. So how do I prevent that objection from even happening in the prospect's mind? So instead of like most salespeople would in that industry, in any retail situation, let's say cars, hey, welcome into the dealership today. How can I help you? Just looking. It's a standard question that everybody in your industry asks. So they view you like everybody else. So I want to repeat that objection to them. So I'm going to rephrase it like this. Hey, welcome into the dealership today. Are you guys just kind of out looking around today? Yeah. See, now they're going to say, yeah. They're not going to say just looking, because when they say just looking, it gets kind of awkward, right? With most people in retail. Hey, are you guys just kind of out, just kind of looking around today? So I'm going to give them their objection so they can't give it to me. Yeah. Okay. And do you know what you're possibly looking for? And I'm right into my first connection questions. So just right there, that's one little skill that we would train you as a client. So Andrew, you want to start getting to those numbers you're talking about, like a ton of our other clients are. You're welcome to message me and we can chat back and forth. Either me or somebody on my team. So you can just message me. Okay. Let's see, Nicole, how do we start? There's other situation questions you got to ask, but how do you start building the gap? Maybe give us a good problem awareness question we taught you how to ask, and then how they responded to that.
Yeah, there was two separate ways I would go about it. I would first, like if they're already using maybe somebody else or other agencies, I would say something along the lines of like, do you like the quality of candidates that you've received from, ABC agency? Or if they're not using anyone, I would say like, okay, well, did something happen, or what made you feel like using Indeed or LinkedIn just and getting applicants that way just wouldn't be enough, though.
Yeah, that's a really good one, especially in that situation. So, I mean, I'm not understanding. You've been posting on Indeed the last 2 years. I mean, what's caused you to feel like that's not getting you the best people? And how would they respond to that?
Oh, yeah, they would just say something along the lines of like, oh, we're not getting any applicants, or the applicants we're getting are just bad quality, or they're getting a ton and they just don't have the bandwidth to even sort through them.
Yeah, but did you notice that question? It's like I'm re-engineering that question, because if I asked them, well, what are some problems that you're having with getting candidates? It's too vague. It's too generalized. It's just too surface level. And they know why you're asking that question. But when I ask this question, it's like I'm pushing them away to get them to pull me back even more. I mean, I'm not understanding. I mean, you've been posting on Indeed the past 2 years. I mean, they're fairly decent. I mean, what's caused you to feel like that's not getting you the best people, though? So it's almost like I'm pushing them back, and now they have to defend themselves on what they currently have, why it sucks so much. See what we're talking about, getting your prospects to persuade themselves. Okay, let's take another question here real quick. A couple more here. Nicole, what would you say, this is from somebody on Facebook, I can't see your name. What would you say is the hardest thing to do in cold calling?
Make sure you don't lose the sale in the first, 5 to 7 seconds.
Yeah, so that's a good explanation, because a lot of people think, oh, the sale's won or lost at the close. Really, the sale's won or lost at hello. If you think about it, right? Because if I trigger sales resistance, especially in a cold call, in that first 10, 20, 30 seconds, the likelihood of that deal going through is about what? 1% maybe? Yeah. So if I can get them to let their guard down, the likelihood that they're going to progress to the next step, call, and eventually buy is far greater. And that's where we're playing the skills game over the numbers game. Okay. All right. What about, there's a lot of solution awareness questions that you have to ask for industry, but what was a good, maybe solution awareness question that we try to ask that got them to focus on what their future would look like once the newfound problems were solved?
Yeah, I would ask something along the lines of like, okay, like before we spoke today, besides using Indeed and your internal recruiter, like had you been out there looking for actual help to really source and hire the right candidate so that you could, if it's a developer, for example, in software, like finish more projects on time and relieve some weight from your team's shoulders? Or like, what have you been doing about actually finding and engaging and hiring the right people for this?
Yeah, so that gets them in results-based thinking. So when they go over that, you kind of give them more an overview. What was a good question? Maybe one of your last 1 or 2 solution awareness questions that got them to see what the future would look like once that was solved.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask them, like I want to understand, like a logical question first, I guess you could say. So like we would say something like, let's suppose we could deliver the right developers with the tech stack, XYZ skills that they're looking for, so that you actually would be able to, finish these projects on time and not have to pay overtime or whatever, not lose people from working too much. And like we do for all of our clients, like, how do you feel that would actually help you the most?
Yeah. So besides, let's say that we're able to come in and we're able to, hire the right candidate so that you could XYZ. Besides that, how do you see that candidate like helping your job the most, or whatever it is, depending on what they need? It could be the department head. Maybe they're having to cover because they don't have the right candidate, so they have to do a lot of their work, causing a lot of hours. It just depends on who you're actually talking to. Okay, let's go to, let's see. How many days if you'll train my sales team, AJ? I don't know what you mean by how many days. We have virtual training platforms that are like 50 some hours long. Plus we do group training calls. I don't know what you mean by how many days. I don't do a lot of workshops where I come in, because your team will retain less than 3% of that within 30 days. So we do a lot of virtual training and group training calls on Zoom. And then we have our virtual training course. It's like 55 or 57 hours. Depending on the size of your company, there are some companies that engage me, but those companies are typically paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for me to come out and do workshops and things like that. So it depends on what you're looking for. Just message me, and me or someone on my team will message you back in the next day or two, see what you might be looking for. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's see. When Sophia from your team sent me the video of interviewing Justin Goldfield, just watching that's really helped me adjust my cold calling skills and that scratching the surface of the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, Facebook user, you probably want to get in our training if you want to sell more for sure. Okay, let's go. Let's do this here. What is the best way to uncover the real objection, Nicole? What's the best way? Like if a prospect says, I want to do more research, or I want to think it over, is that actually a real objection?
Typically, no, and it depends, I guess, what exactly they're saying to you. If they say they want to think it over, it's usually just a smokescreen, right? So then you kind of have to disarm them first by going along the lines of like, okay, that's not a problem. Like, what time frame do you have on like getting back to me in the next day or two, just to make sure I'd be available for you? Go down that, and then at that point, you would say like, okay, you have the booked calendar follow up, and then you would say like, okay, before I go, like what in your mind did you want to go over, just so I know what questions I need to have ready for you when we meet next, Friday.
Yeah, she's exactly right. So anytime a prospect says, I want to do more research, or I want to keep looking around, or I want to think it over, that is not an objection. I want to make sure everybody understands that. When you tell a salesperson you want to think it over, you have a real objection. You just don't want to tell them, don't you? This is for everybody. You just don't want to, you want them to make them feel better about themselves. You say, oh, this looks good. Let me think it over. Now, you just don't want to tell them your real concern. You have uncertainty. Okay. Do you sit there for the next 3 weeks thinking it over? Oh, what are the positives of this? What are the negatives? No, none of you do. It's just a smoke screen. So what I have to do first and foremost is to get the prospect to let their guard down so they feel comfortable enough to tell me what the real concern is. So the first thing I do, like Nicole says, is we want them to feel like it's over. We want them to feel like the call, if we're on the phone, if we're on Zoom, if we're in person, that you're about to leave. Okay. Because when they feel like you're about to leave, they feel the pressure goes out. So their guard comes down. So we say, oh yeah, that's not a problem. What's your time frame on getting back to me in the next day or two, just to see if I'd be available for you? Oh, I could call you later this week. You can't have a waffly time. You want a commitment. So you're first going to say, yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be randomly available like that with my schedule. What I can do, if it helps, is I can, if you have your calendar handy, I can pull up mine and have you book a specific time with me. That way you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Would that help you? Yeah, sure. You book a specific time. Then as you're getting off Zoom, they think you're leaving the phone, as they think you're leaving the door, as they think you're leaving the house, as they think you're leaving their office. Doesn't matter if you sell B2B, B2C, it's all the same. You then sit back and say, now, hey, before I go, what were you, I guess, wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk on Tuesday? Well, Jeremy, I'm just not understanding this. Or, well, I don't know. It's a big decision and I'm not sure if I have the money. Okay, now what did I just find out? That it's a money objection or whatever it is. And now I'm there to help them overcome that objection and more than likely finalize and close that deal on the spot where I don't even need to have a second appointment or a third appointment, 10th appointment, whatever it is. Okay. Hope that helped you. All right. Nicole, well, one last question here. What's a good consequence question that we trained you how to ask, and how do your prospects respond to it?
Let's see, a good consequence question. I'd probably start off with well, what happens if you actually don't find this right person and you're still, depending on the candidate in the role, like if you're still not able to finish this project or develop this project, and this possibly gets even worse and your team continues to work those overtime hours and they get even more burnt out, and then they start leaving, and then you need to hire more people, and then your customers, you miss deadlines and your customers are becoming less patient, or you're for another however long, few months, and what would be the consequences of that at that point?
What if you don't do anything about this and right? So that challenging. What happens if you don't do anything about this, and then you repeat back the negative consequence? How would you do it at that point? Yeah, I like that. Good. All right. Any last words of advice? Any last words of advice you give to maybe a rookie getting into sales? And congratulations on getting into the new industry. I know you wanted to travel, and this new job lets you, kind of pretty much sell anywhere. You moved to Columbia, so congratulations. Well done. I know you'll crush it in fitness because we're training you. That's a big industry we're training you. But what's one piece of advice you'd maybe give to somebody new getting into sales, or maybe even a vet? What's a big piece of advice you might give them?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I had a hard time even asking for help, and I felt like I needed to know what I was doing. And so in the beginning, I kind of felt like almost embarrassed and like didn't look for the help or even get the reps in because I was so scared. And now I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to get the reps in. I'm going to go for it. Even if it feels like I'm failing, like that's the only way to get better. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I stopped caring what people thought of me for sure. And then just learn as much as you can, but take it like one step at a time slowly.
Yeah, 100%. Congratulations on your success. I know you more than doubled your sales and you're already doing pretty good. And you said you had, I think, your 2 best quarters you've ever had before you got out of that job. What happened there?
I did. Yeah. So, I mean, I was in recruiting for 4 years, and I was just average, maybe billing 25 to 50K quarters, maybe. But after a few months of my training, I was able to, in my Q3, my Q4, billing over 100,000, qualifying for my company events, and just like finally.
Oh, so you 4X'd. That's
yeah.
more than well done.
Yeah.
4X more sales. I love that.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Kevin. Jeremy, on a home improvement company. Love some of your techniques, home improvements versus. Are there any home improvement companies you'd work with that recognize? Yeah, home improvement is the 5th largest industry we train, Kevin. So we train a ton of the rebath franchisees. If you're familiar with rebath, like showers, baths, we train a ton of huge cabinet companies. There's one cabinet company, I would give you their name, but we have an NDA with them. So some companies make us sign NDAs where we can't tell anybody that we train them. We're big in the door space, in the window space, siding space, starting to get into awning space, decking space. And I can tell you about one company that we're about to finalize a deal with because he's like one of my best friends now. His name's Tommy Mello. He's the CEO of A1 Garages. I can tell you about that because we haven't signed anything yet, so I'm not under an NDA. So home improvement, home services is, I think, I want to say it's the 4th. It always fluctuates. It's the 4th, 5th, or 6th biggest industry we train. So we train thousands of people in that industry. So if you want to get your reps into the training, just message me directly and somebody on my team will respond back, and you'll be able to book with one of our account managers that will go over different training options for your industry if you want your reps to sell more for you. Okay, Nicole, well done. I got to get out of here. Congratulations on Columbia. Go have some fun, make more sales, have fun. Everybody, we'll see you next week. We'll be back here Tuesday with a special announcement because we're going to be having an event here in about 2 weeks in Dallas, Texas, with a huge marketing company that some of you might be able to go. So you might want to show up next Tuesday for the live. We're going to talk about the details of the event and how you might be able to go. And I'm going to do a little training there as well. So Nicole, well done. Congratulations. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks, Nicole.